Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this virtual community workshop to talk about the Voters' Choice Act and the upcoming June 7th election. My name is Megan Stone. I work for the Elections Department, and joining me today is my colleague, Danny Straub, and the Marin County Registrar of Voters, Linda Roberts. And today we're going to be giving an overview and some background info on the Voters' Choice Act. We're going to be talking about the Voters' Choice Act in Marin, our voter outreach plan, language and accessible voting options, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. But you can feel free to ask questions along the way as they come up. I can move on to the next slide. And as a reminder, language interpretation services will be available tonight in Chinese, Mandarin, and Cantonese, Spanish, Vietnamese, and ASL and CDI. And I also wanted to note that this workshop will be recorded and be available on our website, marinvotes.org. And on that note, I will pass it on to Linda.
Thank you, Megan. And thanks to everyone attending this workshop. We're really happy to be presenting this information to you. I will be giving a brief overview of the Voters' Choice Act and how it impacts Marin County. So we'll start with the next slide. Actually, there should be a slide before that. Well, I'll just go forward. Sorry about that. We're kind of off on the slide. So can you go back? Nope. Sorry about that, everybody. All right.
Linda, we might have an outdated, like an older version. If you can just go forward with what we have, that'd be great.
I will just go through my notes and we'll not worry so much about the slides. So thank you. So in 2016, the legislature passed SB 450, which authorized elections to be conducted by all vote by mail and allowed for the establishment of vote centers. And the intent of this was to give voters more flexibility and convenience. So how does this model make voting more flexible and convenient? It does this in three ways. Starting 29 days before an election, a ballot packet will be mailed to all registered voters. For voters needing or wanting in-person services, multi-day regional vote centers will replace one-day polling places, and voters may go to any vote center within the county. Several secure official ballot drop boxes will be open throughout the county starting 28 days before an election. So how do we determine the number of vote centers and drop box locations? So the legislation outlines formulas that are used to determine the number of locations and when they will open. So some of our vote centers will be open starting 10 days before an election, and all vote centers will be open starting 3 days before the election and on election day. So besides just walking into a vote center to vote, what other services do vote centers provide? All vote centers will have an official ballot drop box for the vote by mail ballots. Voters can register to vote and vote a provisional ballot that will be processed after their registration is verified. Voters can update their address or party preference and vote. Voters can receive a replacement vote by mail ballot, and they can choose to vote using an accessible ballot marking device. You may recognize some of those services if you have voted a polling place before, but vote centers offer two services that were not available at polling places. The ability for a voter to update their address and or party preference and vote that day, and the ability to receive a replacement vote by mail ballot. And unlike polling places, a voter may go to any vote center.
Excuse me, Linda?
Yeah.
May I jump in? Sorry to
Sure.
interrupt. I believe we should be on the next slide. Can I just confirm that you'd like to advance to the next slide?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So let me see what the next slide is. Yeah, drop boxes. Okay, perfect. So starting 28 days before Election Day, several official ballot drop boxes will be open around the county, and voters can also drop their ballot at any vote center or send it back by mail. And the Secretary of State's office offers a free tracking service so voters can know when their ballot is mailed, received, and counted. And you can sign up for that service as shown on the screen at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. And let's see what the next slide shows. Oh, perfect. Okay. So how does all of this impact Marin County? Based on our current voter registration, this slide shows the required number of vote centers and drop boxes. For this June election, the Elections Department will offer vote center services starting on May 9th. We'll open 3 additional vote centers starting May 28th, and we'll have a total of 20 locations open from June 4th through Election Day, June 7th. And starting on May 9th, a ballot packet will be mailed to each registered voter, and we will open 12 official ballot drop boxes around the county starting on May 10th. So let's see what the next slide shows. There we go. So how do we select locations for vote centers and drop boxes? This slide lists criteria that we must consider. And you can see it includes population centers, areas with low vote by mail use, and low income communities. That's just to name a few. And the next slide, please. So as a practical matter, when we're selecting locations, we also have to consider size, availability, accessibility, computer connectivity, and security. And the next slide. This list shows the areas throughout the county where we will be locating vote centers for this June election. And you will find the specific locations on our website, which is listed on the slide. And when you go to that main page, just click on the June 7 election link, and then that will take you to a page where you can go to the list of Dropbox and vote center locations. You'll also see on the vote center list the days they'll be open and the hours of operation. So with that, I'll turn it back to Megan, or we can take questions at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Does anyone have any questions right now? We'll give it a moment. Thank you. We will have time for questions at the end, but we'll go ahead and move on to Danny. He's going to give us an overview of our voter outreach plan. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for everyone who's here. Really appreciate your engagement in our attempts to educate the public on this upcoming election. So speaking of education, that's kind of what a lot of Megan and I have been up to. We have been working with our newest official formal committee, the VOAC, Voter Education and Outreach Committee, Voter Education Outreach Advisory Committee, excuse me. So that started in November 2020 as sort of outreach network. And since then, it has been finalized and formalized into our VOAC advisory committee. It's got 45 members plus. It's growing. We are actively trying to grow it. We look to our community-based organizations for more information than we can gather on our own in the office. We like to use the help of people that are out in the community. And to that end, we have a lot of material, both printed and virtual, that we like to let them distribute for us as a sort of a way to supplement our own efforts at getting that information and those digital assets out to the public. So like I said, there's the virtual and then there's the printed version of most of our outreach assets. The virtual copies are available to be downloaded at marinvotes.org. And the printed versions are going to be available at our in-person workshops next week. And Megan will be going over more of that schedule for the rest of the workshops shortly. Then in addition to our toolkit, we also have 2 direct mailers that we are required to send for every election. The first one was sent in early March. The second one was sent in early April, just recently. And those are sort of infographic, single sheet ways to kind of try to get as much information boiled down to as clear communication as possible. They were both in different forms, but had sort of similar information. And those are just kind of a ways to get every active registered voter a little bit more engaged as we mail those to everybody. And then in addition to that, we're also advertising the election. We will be running print ads in local regional newspapers. We will have an ad in the Marin Independent Journal and the Point Reyes Pacific Sun. We'll have ads placed digitally at marinmagazine.com. We'll also have PSAs that we have filmed in all our languages that will be airing in various places on public service access channels. And then we'll also be running them as advertisements in the language communities that they're recorded in. So like newspapers, radio shows, things like that. As far as the outreach goes, that's pretty much where we're at right now. It's an ongoing effort. And we feel that we are ahead of the game right now. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Megan, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danny. That was great. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the language and accessible voting options that are available to Marin voters. Thank you for switching the slide. We'll talk a little bit about language access for Marin voters now. We are going to have in-person workshops next week, like Danny said. We're going to review this same presentation there, so you're welcome to join in person if you are on the call right now, but if you weren't able to attend and you're watching this as a recording, then they're available next week in person. They're going to be from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. And April 19th and April 21st, we'll have the workshops that are catered towards the Vietnamese and Spanish speaking communities, both at Community Action Marin. And then on April 22nd, we'll have the Chinese language workshop here at the Civic Center. And like Danny mentioned, we'll have the printed toolkit items available at all of our workshops next week. So you'll feel free to come down and pick up some of those if you're interested in displaying any of our materials. And as a reminder, interpreters will be available at those in-person workshops as well. And we're going to have a translated version of this PowerPoint presentation available in printed copy for those who want to follow along. And again, all of this information is available at marinvotes.org. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about voting options for voters with limited English proficiency. So we do offer a translated sample ballot to use as reference when voting the official ballot. You can, which is in English only. You can request that by mail, email, or at any vote center. And our contact information is at the end of this presentation, so you can jot it down then. And then there will also be a postcard application in the County Voter Information Guide to request a translated sample ballot. And that County Voter Information Guide is going out at the end of this month, April. And in that guide, there will also be translated notices. So important things that voters need to know about the election, information about the Voters' Choice Act, and your voting options that I'm covering here now. And then there are also going to be bilingual vote center workers at some locations. We do try very hard to find bilingual workers for all of our locations. However, on our website, marinvotes.org, you can find the locations that have bilingual workers available in Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And those workers can help point out instructions in the voting booth. They can help demonstrate how to mark the ballot. And if you still need help, you're welcome to call the elections department. We have a translation line service if you call in. So you're welcome to do that. So those are some of your options. Like I said, this information is available in your voter guide, and it'll be available on our website. Does anyone have any questions right now before I move on? Okay, thank you. Can you please move on to the next slide? Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and talk about a little bit about accessibility for voters with disabilities, voting options, that is. And like I mentioned, next week, the workshop for voters with disabilities will be on April 20th, also from 12:30 to 1:30. It'll actually be at Vivalon in their caboose room. And ASL and CDI interpreters will be available there as well. And again, all this information is available online if you are just trying to retain all this information as I speak. So some options for voters with disabilities. We have, this is actually available to all voters, but remote accessible vote by mail. It allows any voter to download, mark, and print their ballot at home. Voters may use their own assistive technology to read and mark the ballot. It's not internet voting, that's important to note. Voters still need to print and return their marked ballot. And this is available to all voters, as I said, and voters can request this by phone or email. And similar to the translated sample ballot, there will be an application in the county voter information guide for voters to request this service. So some options at the vote centers. Each vote center will have an accessible marking device to help you mark your ballot independently and privately. A SIP puff device can be provided by calling in advance. We'll also have available wheelchair accessible voting booths, magnifiers, and pens with easy to hold grips. Another service is curbside voting. So if you cannot physically get inside the vote center, you just call when you're outside and an election worker will bring you a ballot and then put your voted ballot into the ballot box. Like I mentioned earlier about identifying bilingual workers, we try our best to find accessible vote center locations, and we survey the sites in advance, and we do our best to make them as accessible as possible, like adding a ramp or whatever is needed. However, now voters can go to any vote center in Marin County, and accessible locations are indicated at marinvotes.org. And if voters need transportation services, Marin Access provides services for older adults, persons with disabilities, and low-income residents. And if you would like to use their service, just register and call in advance, and they can help you. And then the last option is some ballot materials are available in alternative formats. And if you call in advance, you can also request a sign language interpreter. But for both of these things, please do call in advance or look in your county voter information guide for more information. Anyone have any questions right now? And I'm covering a lot of content. Okay, please advance the next slide.
Megan, my apologies. We do have one hand raised. Fred Neeson.
Go ahead, Fred. Fred, are you there? Do you have a question?
Looks like he might be having some difficulty. I'm asking to unmute, but it's not responding.
Okay, that's okay. Maybe I'm almost done actually. So I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Fred.
It wasn't good. All vote accessible.
Sorry, Fred. Can you repeat that, please?
All vote centers
Thank
accessible.
Actually, I'm so sorry, Linda. Do you mind jumping on to answer Fred's question? Are all vote centers accessible? I'm fairly certain they are, but I just want to confirm.
I believe so, but actually what we're going to do is on the website, I'll be posting that the vote center is accessible or it may not be accessible. But we are using past locations that have been accessible. So I imagine most, if not all, will be, but we'll be adding that information. Fred, thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. Do you have any other questions, Fred? Right now, we can come back to it. Okay, thank you so much. Jason, can you move on to the next slide, please? Oh, sorry, you're there. Okay, so the last things I just wanted to note, if you take anything away from this presentation, I want to make sure that everyone is registered to vote. You can do so at registertovote.ca.gov. You can also check your status there or update your status there. The deadline is May 23rd. After that date, please register and vote at any vote center in Marin County. To be eligible to register in California, you must be a U.S. citizen and a resident of California, 18 years or older on election day, not currently serving a state or federal prison term for the conviction of a felony, not currently found mentally incompetent to vote by a court. And then the last thing I want to mention is what Linda had already brought up, but it's very important. Please sign up for Where's My Ballot to track your ballot status at where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov. And if you do this, you can receive automatic email, text, or voice call notifications about your ballot. This is a free service available to all California voters. It's powered by Ballot Tracks, and it's provided by the California Secretary of State. It's a really great service. It takes no time at all to sign up. And we highly recommend you do this yourself and you encourage your family members and friends to do the same. And then please advance to the next slide. So lastly, of course, you can find more information, like I mentioned, on our website, marinvotes.org, or on the California Secretary of State's website. And then feel free to call us or email anytime. This whole presentation will be available on our website, so you can access our phone number there and our email address as well. So now we'll just go ahead and open it up for a little Q&A. Does anyone have any immediate questions for any of us?
Megan, I think you may have mentioned earlier that we do have some in-person presentations coming up.
Yeah, we do have our in-person workshops next week. Like I mentioned before, it will be the same presentation, so you're not by any means required to come again if you've already seen this, but sometimes an in-person option is better for others. So please do let your friends and family know if they're interested. It's during lunch hour, 12:30 to 1:30. If you can only save for a moment, you can just pick up some materials that Danny will have available, or ask any questions that you may have. We'd love to see you there. They are going to be at Community Action Marin for the Spanish and Vietnamese workshops. On the Vietnamese is April 19th, and the Spanish one is on April 21st at Community Action Marin, and the accessible workshop is at Vivalon on April 20th. So I'm saying this off the top of my head. And then the Chinese language one is on Friday, April 22nd here at the Civic Center.
Thank you for going over that again, Megan. I just wanted to have everybody know that you're more than welcome to attend again. In the meantime, between now and then, you may think of questions. So the workshops are posted on our website, the list. So please feel free to attend again if you'd like to. We do have a question. And the question is, I have been voting by mail for several years. Will I notice any difference when I vote by mail under the Voters' Choice Act? The only difference you'll notice is there will be more drop boxes available. So if you are a longtime vote by mail voter, everything will be the same. You'll continue to get the ballot packet and just do what you've been doing. Just a shout out to make sure you sign your envelope, and it needs to be compared to your voter registration form. If there's an issue with your signature, we do send a letter, but no, vote by mail voters won't notice a difference other than you'll have more choices to drop off your ballot.
And Linda,
Yeah.
while you're talking about that, would you mind talking a little bit about the 2-card ballot, just so everyone here
Sure.
has a chance to hear about that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing up that question. So we have this June, for the first time, we'll be having a 2-card ballot. You will get a ballot A and a ballot B. The reason we have that is because there are so many races on this ballot, and there are so many candidates in several of those races that it just filled up one card front and back, and we had to go to a second card to have a complete ballot. So just be aware of that. And there will be, it's clearly marked card A, card B. It's clearly marked on the bottom of the ballot to vote both card A and card B and return them both. So that's just an early heads up to be aware of that. We do have another question, which is, will this program and others be recorded to be seen at a later date?
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. This webinar will be recorded. It will be shared on our website. We'll share it with our VOAC. And this is the same presentation that voters will see next week at the in-person events. So they won't be recorded next week because this is it. So if we have other events, they'll likely be recorded as well. We do have a voter outreach and information page on our website. So when you go there, when you're on our homepage, there's a place that and I think it's in the gold box on our homepage right now. And it'll take you to the voter outreach page, and it has our toolkit, like Danny mentioned, other videos that we've created, any webinar that we've done. So there's a whole host of things there. The mailers that we sent out, I do encourage you to check it out and let your friends and family know about it.
Thank you, Megan. While we have a little pause in the questions, I do want to take a minute to really thank Megan and Danny. They've worked really hard on all of this outreach, putting together the online toolkit and the printed materials and having things translated and putting together these workshops. It's been a tremendous amount of work, and they have done really a very, very good job. So I just want to thank them publicly for everything they've done to bring this educational program forward to the public as we launch this new model that we're excited about. We hope voters will find it exciting as well.
Thank you, Linda. That's very kind. I know Danny would agree that we are very appreciative of the community, of all of our community members involved in our VOAC. They are the ones that are really doing all the work for us. We're creating all the materials, and then those networks are going to create such a wide audience of who will see these. And then, of course, we have a great leadership experience here in this office as well. So thank you to you, Linda, as well.
Thanks,
Yes.
Megan.
Thank you, Linda. That was very nice of you to add. And if I may, I would also like to add a special shout out to Megan. She's really spearheaded this whole effort. I've been assisting her, and I've learned a lot from her. And Megan's been awesome during this whole time.
Thank you, Danny. I really appreciate that. So do you have any other questions?
I don't see any yet in the Q&A. We'll give people maybe a little few seconds to formulate some thoughts.
Yeah, I don't want to end too early in case someone wasn't able to join until, now. I'm trying to think if there's anything of note for this election specifically. Linda, earlier you mentioned the 2-card ballot, and of course, we've been talking about the Voters' Choice Act, and I do want to just quickly indicate, since we have a moment, that they're not related to one another. It's just we're implementing the Voters' Choice Act, and we happen to also be having a 2-card ballot this election for the reasons Linda has mentioned. So we won't necessarily always have that, but it's possible in the
Thanks.
future.
Thanks for clarifying that. So, any more questions from the public? This is our first election, as you know, implementing this new model, and we've been working for really the past, oh gosh, since 2019, for 2 years, just putting the pieces in place. So it's been a very big effort. All of the elections department staff is to be commended for their hard work. We continue to work hard to prepare for this election because, as you can imagine, anything brand new, you got to make sure all of the pieces are in the right place. So we're putting in a great deal of effort to make this run very smoothly. And I just want to generally thank the rest of the department staff for all of their hard work. So
Yeah, that's really true, Linda. And well, as I mentioned earlier, we did want to thank our VOAC. And I do want to just, again, since we have a moment, like make a plug for the VOAC. If anyone is interested in joining our network, please go to our website. There's a whole list of organizations that are part of the VOAC. If you see any organization that you think should be a great addition to the group, please let us know, or let that group know that they can reach out to us. As Danny mentioned, it's ever growing. The more people we have part of this, the more voters will be notified about any election changes or updates. So we do hope to just let that grow over time. Thank you.
And I think, tagging on to that, I'd like to also add that part of the implementing the Voters' Choice Act is having 2 very important committees. One of them is the Language Accessibility Advisory Committee. The other is the Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee. And we've had the Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee in place for quite a long time. Our Language Committee is new, and we can always use members on either of these 2 committees. So if it's something that you would be interested in, and especially people who have particular language skills, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese, we welcome you to participate on that committee. It just helps us understand better how we can improve our voter outreach materials and educational materials going forward, and how we can work with our communities, language and disability communities, to just make the experience better for voters. So I wanted to sort of give that little plug for those 2 committees. And not to leave out our Election Advisory Committee that's been in place for, I think, 15 years, is a long time committee that is made up of members from around the county. And I do appreciate their input over the years of helping us improve the way we manage elections, and giving us feedback about various topics like the outreach materials. They've been very helpful on. So plugging that committee and thanking those members as well.
Thanks, Linda.
So I am not seeing any more questions.
I do not see any more either. Does anyone have? Oh, we do have a question.
Great.
Can voters still go to the elections department for voting and assistance during each election? Linda, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So actually, our department now will be a vote center. So, but we'll be opening May 9th for vote center services. So yes, you can still come here for services that you can now also get at any vote center. We'll just be opening earlier than the other vote centers. So yes, we will continue to provide services. Other questions?
Or just general comments as well are welcome.
Sure, yeah. I'm trying to scan if we've covered other things that might be significant or specific for this June election that we haven't talked about. I'll just
I was
go
doing the
ahead.
same thing, Linda, and I just wanted to note something I forgot to mention during my presentation. Sorry to kind of sidetrack you, but we are planning on having a ballot marking device that I mentioned will be available at the vote centers at our in-person workshop, the accessible workshop on Wednesday, the 20th of next week. So if you've never had the opportunity to see like a demo of how that works, or if you are just interested to see how one works, we're planning on having that available next week.
Something did just cross my mind that if you do want to get more information about the Voters' Choice Act specifically, we do have a lot of information posted on our website. Megan may have mentioned that. Or you can go to the Secretary of State's website, and they have a lot of information. So if you want to delve deeply into the Voters' Choice Act, that information is available.
Linda, Kathleen has one more question.
Oh, great. Let's see, will the list of vote centers on your website indicate which ones will be open 10 days before the election, those open 3 days before? Yes, if you go to that list, it's broken out by when the vote centers will be opening. And the page that we print in the voter information guide of the vote centers will be broken out the same way. So you'll be able to see that the locations that will be open starting 10 days before, and then it'll specify those opening 3 days before. And as I mentioned, we've pulled out the elections department as a location that will be open actually 29 days before the election, starting May 9th. We won't, for the first period of time, the first few weeks, we'll just be open regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. And then starting on Saturday, May 28th, then we will be having weekend hours and consecutive hours through the election. But that's all posted online. Anything else that anyone can think of? I was just going to mention that our voter guides, voter information guides, will be sent starting the last week of April, around April 28th. So start to watch for those to come in your mailbox, and they're jam-packed with information. As you know, they contain a lot of pages about the election, the sample ballot, and this time new in that book will be the list of the vote centers and the list of the drop boxes. The sample ballot will show that it's on the 2 cards, so you'll get a heads up about that in advance before the ballots themselves are mailed. So it's all coming quickly. So start to watch in the next few weeks for information and ballots to come to your mailbox.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, and in that guide, mostly everything I've mentioned about accessibility and language access today will also be in the voter information guide. So if voters don't get the opportunity to see this presentation or one next week, they'll still have that information available to them. And I did want to make one quick note. Sorry, Linda. Danny had mentioned that we had sent the second mailer out yet, but I just want to make a correction that I believe that's going out today or tomorrow. So voters shouldn't see that in their mailbox until maybe sometime next week. But do look out for it because it's a fun guide to voting, and it's a nice way for voters to remember what their choices are for this upcoming election.
And we did get a very nice comment from Robin, who said she really appreciates all of the voter education our department is providing. So thank you, Robin. And she's one of our League of Women Voter members who is especially helpful as a partner in working with us on our outreach materials, giving us feedback, as is the whole league. So we do appreciate those partners very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So I'll give it just a moment more for questions. I don't want to take up anyone's precious time, but I want to make sure everyone's had an opportunity to ask questions. Again, we'll be available, phone or email, or next week in person. We'd love to see your faces in person, which is so rare these days. But thank you so much for being on the call today. We hope to see you in person soon, whether that be next week or maybe just coming into the office. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear what we had to say tonight. And thank you to the interpreters on the line and the rest of the county staff on the line.
Yeah. This is a big technical effort, and it took a lot of help to pull this off. So thanks to all of you behind the scenes. So I'm not seeing any more questions, Megan.
No, I don't see any more either. I think we'll go ahead and sign off.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great
good
evening.
evening.